But for the last 2 years, we have worked together to look at the system of state government and to hone in on what our core services are and what the functions that are core to the state are, and actually trying to focus resources at the state level to the core missions of the state, just as you're trying to focus your local resources on core missions in the counties. And because of our budget challenges, I would believe you're the same as I have looked at things that I've never really looked at seriously before in my tenure in state government, and things that I never thought much about. One of those, and you know it's why I'm here today, the question that just kept coming to my head was, should the state of North Carolina be in the liquor business? Should we? And is that business core or essential? Is it core or essential? And yesterday, in fact, that's why we call yesterday, I have analyzed the information. I've spent 3 or 4 weeks doing it, working with a team for nearly a year. And I came to a decision in my head, and I thought it would be very appropriate to make a recommendation to the people of North Carolina here with you this morning. Let me tell you first, though, a little bit of how I got to the decision, if that's appropriate, Joe. Now, the incidents in Charlotte and Wilmington and Greensboro, with misuse of funds and with the acceptance of gifts, caused a real problem with local ABC systems. And I'm very direct with you all. I am counting on you and those local systems to fix that. It's unacceptable to continue the ethics training and to continue the business training for those people that you put in place to run those boards. That is unacceptable in North Carolina. And so I have told John Williams, and we've talked about this for 8 months, he's the chair of the state's ABC board, that we will continue to make good business decisions in partnership with local ABC boards and commissioners. Because just as I'm committed to bringing greater accountability and transparency and ethics to state government, it's clear to me that local ABC boards, and I've actually challenged you as county commissioner boards as well, to develop broader standards for accountability and ethics and transparency. We all do the people's business. It belongs to the public, not to us. We've done a lot of work already on that with ABC. Last session, with a lot of help from the General Assembly, we passed significant legislation that established new, very stringent ethical standards for those who serve on local boards. I have sent a letter this morning to John and to the members of the ABC board that under my directions, I want them to increase the profitability of the state system, the warehouse, and the transportation system, where the state needs to make more money. And secondly, I have called on the board to evaluate local boards, local offices that are not making money for the counties or the cities, and to close those nonprofit making businesses, and to put more ethical standards and business training into practice for your local boards. So that's where we are this morning. But as I began to examine what we must do with local boards, I began to ask questions about the entire system. That's what I was elected to do. I heard a lot of talk during the campaign and across the country about how great it is to sell the system to private vendors, and that this could generate a significant amount of money for the state. So, again, I said, let's find out how much. Let's look at this. And that's exactly what we did, what it would mean for you and for your people and for North Carolina. We had, as you know, all during the past year, a consultant, a really team of bright people that worked with John Williams and the ABC board and many of you. They did a thorough analysis. They dug into our system, and they presented us with reams of options. You can't believe how many options there are. They've crunched numbers. They've come up with a way to do an estimated value of the system if it were sold to private vendors. The challenge for us is that there are different ways to sell the system to private vendors. The first half of the report that the company submitted to me was actually 2.5 inches thick, and that was just halfway through the process. So they did a lot of work in cooperation with you and with John. And suffice it to say, in my simplistic North Carolina talk, there were just lots of ways to skin this cat. And so I began to think about it and to study about it and actually to talk to you all about it. Pretty quickly, I narrowed down the options for myself, and I hope for the people of North Carolina. I would only consider options that protect local and state tax revenue because those numbers are significant, almost a couple of $100 million, and potentially much more if we incent the businesses toward more profit. I demanded in my mind that the state remain a control state. That's the parcel and the fabric of North Carolina, meaning I wanted regulators like John Williams and the ABC Commission to know where every single bottle of liquor was sold. And I felt it was really important for county and city governments to be part of that sales network and that control system, as well as other local law enforcement. I believe that. That's fundamental to who I am as a person. I believe it's important to North Carolina, not just the profit, but the control. You got to have both, I believe. And I believe that because we have provided in this state exemplary regulation of a product that can be a powerful substance, purely and simply. Finally, I wanted whatever option we chose to be worth the decision that we were making. Financially, for me, and for many of you, in order to justify changing a system that's worked well, pretty well, most of the time, for 70 years, as we in North Carolina know, my staff came up with the phrase, and I've used it during the last year, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the juice worth the squeeze? And that's how I began to evaluate it. Is all that I'm about to do worth what the outcome is going to be? So in my mind, the value of the sale had to offset the risk, and that's the word I've chosen to use, involved in changing North Carolina's control system. As many of you in this room and across the state have pointed out to me, there are potentially significant risks to privatization, and a good business leader, and I try to be that as you do, understand risk and rewards. Is the risk worth the reward? Pure and simple. To maintain control over the sales, to protect that local and state tax revenue, and to place some reasonable control limits on where bottles can be sold. Most revenue estimates from our consultant are right around $300 million. Let me tell you that again. To control the product, to have local and state profits, and to protect some kind of sales network. It's not the billions of dollars you've heard. It's about $300 million. And the profit today, with no changes, is about $200 million. That's one-time money, my friends. That's here today and gone this time next year. And so I said to the consultant and to John Williams and the staff, well, show me the money. Where's the big money y'all have been telling me about? Because quite frankly, I was a bit stunned, a little bit disappointed. I wanted to see the big money, the billion plus, the $1.3 billion, the $1.5 billion. And they showed me the money. And this is what I've chosen to talk with you about today. The way to get to that big money in North Carolina, the way to get to that money that we've heard about all over the state for 2 years in campaign rhetoric and other kind of settings, is to open North Carolina up to liquor sales all over your state in all kinds of stores, from your neighborhood drugstore to your local grocery store. That's how you get the big money. And from grocery stores to even gas stations and convenience stores. I've thought about that. I've really thought about it. And from my perspective, as somebody who loves this state a whole lot, and I believe is a really good businesswoman, I don't believe the juice is worth the squeeze. I don't believe this is the right thing to do for North Carolina, because I don't believe the majority of our citizens of North Carolinians want North Carolina to do this. We're tied. Now, let me tell you some more metrics that I looked at and that you've looked at. We are tied this morning for 44th in per capita liquor consumption across this state. We are one of the lowest states in America because we've controlled advertising and access. So consumption is low, But just as importantly, and more importantly to you perhaps, our current ABC system, especially with the new ethical standards we have in place, which is generally well run now, gives us the third most profitable excise revenue in the country. So we're 44th in consumption and third in profit. You can see where my head was. We're careful in this state about alcohol sales. We've been for years. We are dutiful, all of us, about the health and the safety of our people. And I think that's one of the responsibilities we all must have as elected leaders at any level. Even though North Carolina and you are in difficult budget times, I believe we have to make serious, thoughtful, reasonable choices in order for our decisions to be good ones, because they will have long-term consequences for the people of this state, for your children and your grandchildren. I simply don't want to be the governor, I really don't, who puts liquor into the big, huge Target, Walmart stores or the local convenience stores. I don't want to be the governor who holds my little granddaughter's hand as I walk down the aisles of Walmart or Target or Rose's to the toy center and have to pass shelves and shelves of liquor and say to her, keep your hands off that liquor. And I don't want to be the governor who goes into Food Line or Harris Teeter or Lowe's or whatever your grocery is and who has to grab her hand as we walk by cereal boxes going past the liquor bottles. I just don't want North Carolina to be that. That's who I am. That isn't North Carolina. That isn't who we are, and it isn't who we want to be. I'm fundamentally serious about this. So given the information that I have gleaned, I have serious concerns about any conversation or any privatization of the state's ABC system. I do not believe that the privatization of our ABC system is the right business decision for North Carolina. And I believe that that's based on a good business model as well as what's right for North Carolina. That's what I'm here to tell you today. The ABC board, John and his members, are compiling the final data. I will share it with Senator Berger and Representative Tillis. They are being called as we make this announcement. I will share it with the ABC committees, each of the House and Senate have one, and with the membership of the General Assembly. I know that those state leaders have been really anxious, looking for money to learn more about our options. I want to give them all of the information that they need to make a good decision, and I pray that their decision will parallel my decision. If they choose to consider this as a revenue option this year, I will work with them, but I do not support this. I will even invite them, though, to sit down with me and my staff and hear a presentation. We'll bring the evaluators in. We'll talk to them about all the iterations. I'll give them the same opportunity, if they want it, as I've had working with you to make what I believe is the right decision for the state of North Carolina and our people, and to learn firsthand. I believe at the end of the day, as you all look at this material, whether you're for privatization or not, you'll decide, as I have, that consumption and profit outweigh $200 million one-time dollars or $1 billion plus, putting it in every store in North Carolina. I think that's the right decision, and in my simple terms, the juice just is not worth the squeeze for us, the people of this state. I thank you all for working with me. I genuinely do, Joe, and your board, David. As we've shared concerns over this issue with each other, and as we've been patient with each other, as it's taken me nearly a year to work through this process, I continue to look for ways to reset government and to set government straight. You'll see some of those in our budget document, and I intend to continue tackling the jobs and budget issues that we face in a very progressive way that has tremendous impact to the good for the people of our state. But for me today, the reason I'm here and the reason I hijacked your meeting is to tell this very important group of people that selling the ABC system is not the right thing for North Carolina. Thank you.